Today we have to cancel a woman named Whitney Levitt, who has amassed a following of 500,000 fans on TikTok, mostly from what I can tell by lip syncing and dancing while pregnant. Now, TikTok has proven that there's an enormous market out there for 12-second videos of people lip syncing and dancing. But in order to really make it big on the platform, you need to discover your own niche within that category, your own twist. So some people lip sync and dance while only partially clothed. Some people lip sync and dance while not clothed at all. Others lip sync and dance while wearing funny outfits. There are people lip syncing and dancing while cross-dressing, I saw one woman who was lip syncing and dancing while being very old. So that was her own special variation on the theme. And all these people have lots and lots of followers on TikTok. But Whitney had the pregnant lip sync dance genre cornered until her TikTok career was derailed because she had her baby. And so she was no longer pregnant. And then searching for some new creative inspiration, she found her opportunity when her newborn child came down with the respiratory virus RSV. Now, 3 of my kids had RSV as babies. All of them had to go to the hospital for it. And I can tell you it's an extremely scary experience because while the virus manifests as a cold in adults, much like Omicron, it can kill a very young child, unlike Omicron. It would be an understatement to say that while at the hospital with my severely sick children, I was not in a dancing mood. Now, to be fair, I'm never in a dancing mood. But if I were to ever experience the strange and arbitrary urge to move my body to the rhythm of music, it would not be at the hospital with a sick child. Now, Whitney, on the other hand, takes a different approach to parenting. And so she recorded and posted this video at the hospital while standing next to her newborn child who was struggling to breathe. Let's watch.
Living lovely. I wanna be with you. I wanna be with.
Now, for those listening only to the audio, let me paint the mental picture for you. Whitney wearing a bright pink Nirvana sweater, despite, I'm sure, not being able to name more than 2 Nirvana songs at most. That's beside the point. Whitney is standing in a hospital room next to her newborn child, performing a choreographed dance routine, while the captions on the screen inform us that he has RSV, has low oxygen levels, and cannot breathe well on his own. Now, we should note that it's not even a sad song and dance either. This isn't like an interpretive performance where she's communicating her sadness and anxiety through dance. I mean, that would also be completely insane, but this somehow manages to be even crazier because the song and dance are upbeat. Meanwhile, her son is laying helplessly in the bassinet, looking at the camera with a distinct "get away from me, woman" expression on his face. Now, if you really wanted to make excuses for Whitney, which I don't, you might argue that all of the dancing nurses over the last 2 years have given people the mistaken impression that hospital rooms also double as dance studios. I'm just glad that this trend took hold after my Achilles surgery a few years ago, because if I had the same procedure today, I'd probably wake up from anesthesia to discover that there's a viral video on TikTok of my surgeon dancing around my unconscious body while he stitches together my shattered tendons. So I think I've escaped that sort of thing. But now my nightmare is that, sometime in the future, I'll go in for some routine blood work or something, only to have the doctor and 15 nurses come dancing into the room with a marching band to inform me that I have stage 4 cancer and I'll be dead in 3 months. That's where this is headed. Now, all that being said, this is no excuse for Whitney, who should have known better, all the same. And she now acknowledges that, and she issued a tearful apology a couple of days later after her video failed to receive the applause that she was hoping for. This is what she said.
I understand people are upset with the video that I made. I just want to be clear and communicate that that was me just trying to be positive. I think it's important to just not just assume what someone's going through. Anyways, I took the video down because I could see, where somebody could get the wrong idea, but that honestly was just me just trying to be positive in this situation. But I do want to say thank you for people who have reached out to me and my family, and I just really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, she's the victim here, you see. The victim of the content that she posted on the internet to her massive crowd of followers. She says that she was just trying to be positive. Well, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. People try to stay positive. I've been to plenty of funerals where people are laughing and joking, finding joy even in grief. It's a very common coping mechanism. But the problem here is not positivity. The problem isn't even necessarily the dancing. Now, if I walked into a room and found a mother dancing alone around her sick child, I would think that it was super weird and I'd be very uncomfortable having witnessed it, but I'd probably assume that it was some kind of like religious ritual or something. The main point is that it would be none of my business if I were to just walk into a room and see that. If that's how you cope in private, well, okay, that's your affair. But this was not private. She made the decision to record, edit, and post this content to the internet. She wasn't merely staying positive, she was using her child's sickness as content for social media. She didn't stay positive, she stayed posting. And that's the issue here. Speaking of funerals, this reminds me of the influencer a few weeks ago, who I think I mentioned on the show, who found herself in the middle of a similar firestorm when she posed for seductive photos next to her father's open casket and posted them to Instagram. And she captioned it, "Butterfly, fly away. R.I.P. Poppy, you were my best friend. A life well lived." Now, once again, there's nothing wrong with that sentiment. The problem is that she felt the need to post pictures of herself with her dad's corpse on social media. That's not coping, that's content. What should have been a very personal and private moment becomes an opportunity to bring attention to yourself. Now, she justified herself, the one with the corpse, after the fact by saying, everybody handles their loss of a loved one in their own way. Some are more traditional, while others might come across as taboo. For me, I treated the celebration as if my father was right next to me, posing for the camera as he had done on many occasions prior. But again, she's free to grieve in her own way, to celebrate her father's life in her own way, to go through this privately in whatever way she sees fit. It's none of our business. Unless you make it our business, which in this case she did. And when that happens, we are free to ask why. I mean, what motivates people to bring these sacred and intimate moments into the public sphere, exploiting their own trauma for content, cashing in their grief and misery for likes and shares? Why do people do it? I think there are a few factors, but one that we can consider is that, this new crop of social media influencers grew up with the internet, on it, in it. They've never had a private life. They've been on stage effectively almost since birth, living in front of an audience. Now, everybody knows that child actors usually grow up to become deeply disturbed and troubled adults. Why is that? Well, because they never experienced normal human existence. They were famous before they could understand what fame meant, and certainly before they could really choose it for themselves. They've been performing for so long, they never had a chance to develop a real personality, a real interior life. So they grow into these stunted, hollow people. And they try to fill that gap in, that hollowness in with drugs and everything else. Well, the problem is that now all kids have child actor syndrome. The only difference is that most of them don't have millions of dollars to show for it. But they get on the internet and social media early in life, and they begin cultivating their own little audience. And they become small-scale public figures, performing for the crowd, trying constantly to appease and grow their fan base, though they can't explain what they gain from it. And this is true of adults too. Everybody is a public figure now, on one scale or another. Everyone is famous in their own way. Only most people get the worst parts of fame, the lack of privacy, the narcissism, the constant crushing fear that you'll become irrelevant. But none of the perks, money, admiration, success. And this is how we end up with people who put everything on the internet, who publicize every detail of themselves, who use every experience and every thought and every misfortune and trauma as content, mere fuel to shove into the fire. That's how Whitney Levitt happens. Though this is not an excuse. We still must hold individuals accountable for their own behavior, which is why today she is still, at the end, canceled. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.